Hello everyone! Now you will hear a brief summary of the movie The Professional. Enjoy watching. The year 1980. Four mercenaries arrived in a small Mexican town to eliminate a targeted victim. At first, a car with security was blown up. From behind, Hunter blocked the road and opened fire on the car with the target. From the other side, Danny Bryce jumped out, shot out the wheels of the car, and blew up the door. Finally, he was able to get to the politician and eliminate him. However, this happened in front of the politician's son. Danny got distracted and was wounded by the police. Hunter covered him and helped him up. Davis picked them both up in a car. At that moment, Danny came to the conclusion that he'd had enough. He was going to quit this dangerous work. The man returned to his native Australia and lived peacefully there for a year, but then he was sent a photograph of Hunter. He had been captured somewhere in Oman. 2 days later, Danny arrived in the country and learned that his friend was captured by an oil sheikh. Hunter took on a job blindly, but after learning the details, decided to just run away with the money. That's why he got caught. Now, to save his friend, Danny has to complete this job. The mercenary was taken to the sheikh. During the recent power struggle in the region, 3 of his sons were killed. The sheikh managed to save only the youngest, Bahit. The ones responsible for his son's deaths must be eliminated. All the killers served in the SS, the British Special Forces. The sheikh is seriously ill, so these Englishmen need to be dealt with within 6 months, and each of them must record a confession on camera before they die. Show the English that a war ends only with mutual consent. Danny peered into the camera at his old friend. The old man admitted that he got greedy since the job was worth $6 million. Danny doesn't plan to play by the rules. He knocked out 2 guards and freed Hunter. The partners started shooting the Arabs, so they couldn't leave quietly. Alas. The plan was doomed to fail from the beginning. The fugitives were stopped by Bahid with his fighters. Good try, but they would have found you. Danny lunged at the middleman. After all, it was because of him that Hunter ended up captured. The first thing Danny did was fly to Paris to gather the old team. Mustache warned Danny that it would be tough. After all, the SAS is the best special unit in the world. The Navy SEALs can't even compare. Despite this, Davis agreed to participate, as did Meyer. After all, they would get a bunch of money for it. But Danny refused the money. He just wants to free his old friend. They only know one name, Stephen Harris, and he stayed in Oman at an English military base. In the evening, Danny broke into his house and chipped off a piece of tile in the bathroom. Meanwhile, in London, Davis stopped by the Special Forces bar and tried to find out which veterans had served in Oman. Spike Locke was immediately informed about this suspicious guy. Davis started being surveilled. Former Special Forces soldiers, now influential businessmen and politicians, organized something like a secret society that supports and covers all SS veterans. The Federman tasked Spike with sorting this out. During his service, he was one of the best. Spike ordered his associate Martin to follow Davis. The team reunited in Oman. For the murder, they need to disguise it as accidents, and they ordered a suitable weapon. Danny noticed the glare from Martin's camera lenses and realized they were being watched. The mercenaries chased after Martin. He jumped into an underground cave and, to get rid of his pursuers, smashed a beehive. So, someone is hunting the mercenaries themselves. They need to hurry. To get back into Harris's house, Danny and Meyer posed as military journalists. They tied the veteran to a chair and turned on the camera, then set up the scene for the future crime. Harris must confess to killing the sheikh's son. There were witnesses. He was shot right in front of the family. Harris said he participated in the operation, but the real killer is supposedly someone else, and he is now writing a book about it. Danny decided that the former soldier was mocking him. Having obtained the confession, he leaned Harris over the bathtub and was about to smash his head, but suddenly his lover showed up. Danny was distracted, and when he returned, he saw that Meyer had already done the dirty work for him. Spike learned about Captain Harris's death from the newspapers. The intermediary received the next tip from a British special agent and passed it on to the mercenaries. Davis visited another veteran who now paints pictures about his adventures in Oman and started asking questions about that operation. The artist immediately called his former comrades and raised the alarm. Then Davis broke the brush and stabbed. Spike assigned Agent Pennock to keep an eye on this Craig. The recruits arrived at the training ground where the march will take place. On one hand, there are always many special forces here. On the other hand, it's easy to stage an accident. Spike noticed a suspicious guy posing as a doctor. He's one of the killers. Danny realized he'd been identified and tried to escape the pursuers in a car. After making a loop, Danny returned to the hospital. There, a fight broke out between him and Spike. Danny almost gouged out the operative's eye. The operative beat him, which resulted in a hole in his palm. Both fighters were fighting as if it was the last time in their lives. Danny was close to losing, but as usual, a blow to the groin settled it. However, Danny took out Pinaka with just 2 hits. In the hospital, the mercenary stole 2 medications that should induce hypothermia in Craig. Now he just needs to sneak into the SAS base and administer them to the commando before the jump. Danny pretended to be one of them and followed Craig into the mess hall. He added some powder to the soldier's coffee, but he only drank half a cup. Danny set out with the others. Half a dose was enough for Craig to start feeling sick right at the beginning of the journey. As he was dying, he confessed that he killed one of the Sheikh's sons. Danny sent the recording to the client. The team still needs to take out the last one. Major Simon McCann. This McCann is a crazy type. Scanhead scratched his car, and the veteran injured all 3 of them. Spike is already watching him. The mercenaries followed the man with the mustache and found out where he lives. The intermediary discovered that Spike doesn't work anywhere. But he is constantly busy with something. The hitman called McCann and invited him for an interview for a security guard position. Feather was advised from above to calm down his watchdog so he wouldn't interfere with the mercenaries doing their job. Spike realized that these old geezers betrayed their own. They are ready to cover everything up, just not to get in the way of the people in power. In any case, Spike will be the one to take the fall. A newcomer, Jake, joined the team of mercenaries. Killing is easy, but living with it is hard. The plan is to use a remote-controlled truck that will crash into Makan's car. He just left for the fake interview. A person from Spike's team is watching him. A truck is already moving towards them, which Meyer Kubuzata, in control. There are a few hundred meters left to the target. The truck driver lost control. The machine went into the oncoming lane and suddenly turned. Makan didn't have time to brake and ran into the truck at full speed. Meyer wanted to make sure that Makan was dead, but an agent of Spike spotted him. A chase began after him and the newcomer. They drove into a warehouse. Both cars stopped. Jack was constantly getting in Meyer's way, and when the fight started, he shot the enemy in the head. But, in the process, accidentally killed his mentor. Danny and Davis lost a longtime friend, but at least the case is closed. They can go their separate ways again. However, Spike won't let it go that easily. He tracked down the hotel where Davis was staying, and he was apprehended in the middle of the night. Danny kept the radio of the fallen agent and learned that his friend was in trouble. Davis managed to escape, but when he ran onto the highway and tried to stop a car, he was hit by a truck. Spike is furious. That pile of minced meat was our chance to find out who they are. Danny sneaked into Spike's house and found out that he had one less friend. He suggested that Spike forget about everything. His work was already done. Enough deaths. The Sheikh finally released Hunter. Danny demanded that the old man also quit this dangerous work. Danny returned to Australia to his girlfriend. Does that mean it's over? Or will you leave again? No. Meanwhile, Martin and Spike contacted the middleman. He had just called Danny and informed him that they actually killed the wrong person and left the middleman without his 10% commission. Now the hitman will have to meet with Bahit in London, and if he refuses, his girlfriend will suffer. A cartridge was left next to Annie's head. Her life is in danger, so Danny took Annie to Paris and left her under Hunter's protection. Danny himself met with Bahit in London. The mercenary brutally beat all his guards for the cartridge trick. Bahit threw a book on the table. Harris did not lie. He did not kill the Sheikh's son. Another soldier with the last name Finos wrote a book about how he fought in Oman and killed the rebel leader. You mentioned him to me. You said he is guilty. It's the will of Allah. So Danny killed an innocent person, but he still needs to complete the task. The intermediary reported that Phineas will soon hold a press conference about his book. Spike listened to their conversation. He gathered a serious team to deal with Danny. Phineas was warned. A suspicious person in a motorcycle helmet entered the building. He was heading towards Phineas, but one of the doors was booby-trapped. There was an explosion. They took off the helmet from the unknown person. Underneath it was a newcomer, Jake. Meanwhile, Danny reached Phineas and wounded him in the leg. The killer fired a few more shots and took a photo of the body. He was going to escape via the roof, but they were already waiting for him there. My chest, Danny knocked out the agent. Dodging bullets, he jumped from one building to another. After that, Danny repeated the dangerous stunt and almost fell down. It seemed like he managed to escape the chase, but a witness screamed and Spike caught him. It turned out that the mercenary did not kill the writer, but just photographed him in a pool of blood. He remembered that boy from Turkey and no longer wanted to kill. Danny warned Spike that others would come for Phineas, and if he shows the photo to the client, they'll just forget about the veteran. If you let me go, I'll tell you who's behind this and where to find him. Spike heard the truth, but still didn't believe Danny. Suddenly, a government agent aimed at him. Both of them were betrayed by their own. The agent explained that the government made a deal with the Sheikh. They hand over the killers, and his younger son gains power and signs a beneficial oil supply contract for Britain. The agent was going to execute both, but a fight broke out. Everyone against everyone. During the scuffles, Spike shot the agent. The mercenary jumped out the window and stole a car. Spike didn't manage to take him down. The middleman blames Danny for losing his commission, so he decided to take Annie hostage. However, his plans were thwarted by Hunter. The old man first beat up his accomplice and then shot the middleman in the leg. He is the one who betrayed the killers, but Hunter spared his life. Hunter also flew to Oman to cover for his friend. However, Spike reached the Sheikh before him and showed photos of the supposedly killed Faines himself. But suddenly, he claimed that the veteran was alive and stabbed the old man. He regretted it. The heir does not want his father's power. The guy pointed to the suitcase with money, and Spike took it. The Englishman was immediately chased. Danny followed them. Hunter shot up the Arab's car so they couldn't continue the chase. Soon the mercenaries caught up with Spike and shot out the tires on his car. The bearded man said that the Sheikh is dead and his son is not going to return to the desert, so there will be no contracts with Britain. Hunter found the suitcase with the money, but Danny asked not to touch it. Let that dirty money stay with Spike. He won't be able to return to England anyway. After killing a government agent, he still needs to make documents and get a new face. Meanwhile, Danny picked up his girlfriend and drove from Paris home to Australia.